The Florida coast is collapsing again. Massive sinkholes are swallowing entire beaches as the limestone foundation crumbles beneath one of America's most famous coastlines. This is not hurricane damage. This is not a tropical storm. This is the ground itself, vanishing into the ocean without warning. Picture waking up to find your favorite beach gone. Not washed away. Not eroded over years. Gone. Swallowed by a 300-foot wide hole that opened overnight while you slept. Emergency crews are racing to evacuate hotels as the sand literally disappears beneath tourists' feet. 47 miles of paradise are closed because scientists detected what they are calling catastrophic limestone failure. But here is what has geologists in complete panic. Black tar balls are washing ashore. Ancient material from thousands of feet below the surface is rising through cracks that should not exist. Seismic monitors are detecting earthquakes in Florida, a place that never has earthquakes. The collapses are accelerating, spreading northward and connecting through hidden underground cave networks that stretch for hundreds of miles. Is this just Florida's nightmare? Or is the entire Atlantic coast sitting on a crumbling foundation that could collapse at any moment? How many more sinkholes before an entire city falls into the sea? December 18th, 6:47 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Coast Guard patrol boat CG-47 reports an anomaly 400 yards off Deerfield Beach. Lieutenant Commander James Walsh radios base with coordinates that make no sense. The depth finder shows 40 feet where charts indicate 12 feet. Within 15 minutes, aerial surveillance confirms the unthinkable. A sinkhole 300 feet across has opened on the ocean floor, swallowing sand, coral, and seabed in a collapse that happened overnight while Florida slept. At 7:23 a.m., the second sinkhole rips open near Pompano Beach. This one measures 450 feet in diameter. Beach erosion becomes visible from shore as the underwater void pulls sand seaward. Tourists filming sunrise videos capture the moment the beach they are standing on starts sliding toward the water. Hotel guests evacuate in pajamas, grabbing children and running as emergency sirens wail across Broward County. By 8:15 a.m., a third sinkhole tears through the seafloor near Boca Raton. The Florida Department of Environmental Protection escalates to full crisis mode. Director Amanda Torres coordinates with 15 county emergency management offices as reports flood in faster than teams can respond. NOAA aerial surveys reveal what scientists feared most. The sinkholes are not isolated events. They are connected through an underground network that is actively failing. Beach closures begin at 9 a.m. sharp. 47 miles of coastline from Port Everglades to Palm Beach are deemed unsafe for human access. The Broward County Sheriff's Office deploys 200 deputies to enforce evacuation zones. The U.S. Coast Guard establishes no-go zones extending 2 miles offshore. The numbers are staggering and climbing by the hour. 12,000 tourists are displaced from beachfront hotels. 8 major resorts are completely evacuated. Emergency shelters open in Fort Lauderdale and West Palm Beach. By noon, satellite imaging from NOAA's Disaster Response Division reveals the full scope of the catastrophe. 23 distinct underwater sinkholes are identified across 15 square miles of seafloor. Dr. Marcus Reynolds, lead geologist with the U.S. Geological Survey, reviews the data with visible alarm. He describes what is happening as an unprecedented collapse event, unlike anything in Florida's recorded history. Preliminary damage estimates exceed $2.3 billion, and the sinkholes are still forming. Florida sits atop a porous limestone platform that is dissolving from below. Dr. Sarah Chen, lead geologist with the United States Geological Survey, explains the chemistry behind the catastrophe with growing alarm. Carbonic acid from rainwater combines with saltwater intrusion to create a chemical reaction that literally eats the rock. A process that normally takes centuries is happening in months, accelerating at rates that defy every geological model in her database. sonar mapping reveals the nightmare beneath the surface. A massive interconnected cavern network stretches from Miami to Jupiter, discovered only after the first collapse triggered emergency surveys. Some chambers measure 200 feet tall and extend for miles through the subsurface. The University of Florida research team, led by Dr. James Martinez, analyzes the three-dimensional models with visible distress. The limestone foundation resembles Swiss cheese, hollowed out and structurally compromised across hundreds of square miles. The trigger mechanism involves multiple stressors converging simultaneously. Sea level rise is increasing water pressure at accelerated rates, measuring 3.2 millimeters per year above historical averages. Saltwater intrusion is weakening the limestone 40% faster than records from the 20th century. Temperature fluctuations cause expansion and contraction cycles that fracture already compromised rock. Dr. Lisa Wang at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography describes the convergence as multiple stressors creating a perfect storm for geological failure. The observations are unprecedented and terrifying. Collapse rate currently averages 12 sinkholes forming per week. Historical data shows Florida averaged 2 to 3 sinkholes per year statewide. Monitoring stations detect what scientists call acoustic anomalies, the sounds of rock fracturing underwater in real time. Seismic activity spikes to alarming levels. 15 micro-tremors were recorded in the past 72 hours alone. A magnitude 2.5 earthquake struck near Panama City, the largest seismic event in Florida in a decade. Scientific debate erupts across research institutions. MIT researchers argue this represents accelerated geological failure driven by climate factors. The Columbia University team suggests natural El Niño cycle intensification. Dr. Richard Sanchez warns that climate change is loading the dice for catastrophic collapse. International geological survey teams mobilized to Florida. Emergency research grants totaling $45 million were approved within 48 hours of the first sinkhole discovery. December 18th at 7:15 in the morning, lifeguard Marcus Johnson arrives for his shift at Deerfield Beach and discovers something that makes no sense. Black tar coats the sand in thick, sticky clumps stretching as far as he can see. Within hours, the scope of contamination becomes clear. 2,400 pounds of black tar wash ashore across a 12-mile stretch from Port Everglades to Pompano Beach. Beach closures extend as the tar spreads northward with the current. Emergency response teams mobilize immediately, but chemical analysis reveals these are not oil spills. The Florida Department of Environmental Protection rules out petroleum contamination within 6 hours of testing. Dr. Angela Martinez, a marine geologist at the University of Miami, examines samples under electron microscopy. The tarballs contain ancient organic material trapped in limestone for millennia. Carbon dating shows the material ranges from 15,000 to 50,000 years old, released when seafloor collapses expose deep rock layers that have not seen sunlight since the last ice age. The connection to the sinkhole crisis becomes undeniable. Tarballs appear directly above known collapse locations with disturbing precision. The department confirms a direct correlation between underwater sinkholes and tar emergence. The pattern indicates fractures penetrating hundreds of feet into bedrock, exposing geological layers that should remain sealed forever. Maps overlaying tarball locations and underground cave networks match almost perfectly, revealing the true scale of subsurface damage. Environmental and health concerns cascade rapidly. The EPA deploys testing teams for toxicity analysis. Swimming bans extend across 31 miles of coastline. Wildlife impacts mount catastrophically. 47 sea turtles are showing signs of tar ingestion. 12 dolphins are exhibiting respiratory distress. Marine mammal rescue centers become overwhelmed within 48 hours. Tourism losses accelerate beyond early projections. Cancellations spike to $180 million in lost bookings within the first week. Hotel occupancy drops 73% across Broward and Palm Beach counties. Spring break reservations evaporate as images of tar-covered beaches flood social media. The Tarballs serve as nature's alarm system, geological warnings written in ancient carbon. Scientists are racing to map potential tar deposit locations, and they discover methane readings in some collapse zones, suggesting additional hazards lurking below. If material buried for 50,000 years is surfacing now, what else could the collapsing foundation release? Maria Martinez clutches her 8-year-old daughter Sophia's hand as they stand outside their family restaurant in Pompano Beach. For 18 years, the beachfront property represented 3 generations of dreams built on Florida sand. The morning of December 18th changes everything. Foundation cracks appear overnight, spreading across walls like spider webs. The building inspector arrives at 9:47 a.m. with devastating news. Structure compromised due to ground subsidence. Evacuate immediately. Maria takes 3 suitcases and family photos. The restaurant, valued at $2.8 million, carries insurance that excludes ground collapse. Sophia cries as they drive away. "When can we go home, Mama?" Coastal infrastructure fails faster than engineers can assess the damage. Highway A1A shows stress fractures near Deerfield Beach that were not there 72 hours ago. Florida Department of Transportation engineers measure 6 inches of subsidence across a 3.2-mile section. The roadway closes to all traffic. 45,000 daily commuters reroute through residential neighborhoods never designed for that volume. Emergency repair estimates reach $89 million, but no one knows if repairs will hold on collapsing ground. High-rise apartment evacuations begin after midnight. Ocean View Towers, a 22-story building housing 340 residents, shows foundation movement detected by structural engineers during emergency inspections. Mandatory evacuation ordered at 11:47 p.m. Residents given 2 hours to pack essentials. Elderly residents requiring medical assistance struggle down stairwells as elevators shut down. Emergency shelters reach 150% capacity within hours. The Red Cross opens 8 additional facilities across Broward County. The economic cascade accelerates beyond containment. 2,400 hotel rooms remain closed indefinitely. 67 restaurants have shuttered as evacuation zones expand. Spring break bookings were canceled en masse, with projected losses reaching $420 million. The real estate market freezes completely. Home values in affected zones drop 35% overnight. Insurance companies are refusing new policies for any coastal property within 5 miles of documented sinkholes. Community response mobilizes despite overwhelming odds. Local churches open their doors to displaced families. Volunteer networks distribute supplies and coordinate temporary housing. But individual generosity cannot address systemic collapse. The mayor of Fort Lauderdale faces cameras with visible exhaustion. This is beyond anything we planned for, beyond anything our emergency protocols imagined possible. Children wake screaming from nightmares of the ground opening beneath them. Anxiety medication prescriptions spike 340% across coastal counties. A mental health crisis emerges alongside the geological catastrophe. December 20th, 2:34 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. A magnitude 2.8 earthquake strikes with an epicenter 15 miles offshore from West Palm Beach. U.S. Geological Survey seismologist Dr. Kevin Torres stares at the data from monitoring stations with complete disbelief. This should not be happening. Florida averages 0 significant earthquakes per year. The state sits nowhere near tectonic plate boundaries. Yet this month alone, seismic monitors record 17 detectable tremors across the region. The connection between collapses and earthquakes defies traditional seismology. These are not tectonic plate movements. Something entirely different is occurring beneath Florida's coast. Leading theory suggests the massive weight of collapsing rock creates stress waves that propagate through the limestone platform. A secondary theory proposes water rushing into newly formed voids generates pressure, shocks, powerful enough to register on seismometers. Dr. Rachel Kim at Caltech reviews the seismic signatures with growing alarm. We are observing new phenomena that earthquake science cannot fully explain. Emergency monitoring networks deploy across the crisis zone. 40 temporary seismometers were installed along 100 miles of coastline within 48 hours. Real-time data streams to USGS headquarters in Golden, Colorado. The sensors detect continuous micro-tremor activity, constant vibrations suggesting progressive collapse spreading through interconnected cave systems. The pattern moves steadily northward at rates averaging 3 miles per day. The seismic reach extends far beyond initial projections. Tremors register in Miami, 85 miles south of the primary collapse zone. Jacksonville reports unusual vibrations felt by residents 180 miles to the north. Georgia's coast has placed monitoring systems on high alert. South Carolina requests federal assistance for geological assessments of similar limestone formations. Computer models project disturbing possibilities. Simulations show potential for magnitude 4.0 or larger events if collapses accelerate. These would not originate from fault lines, but from catastrophic structural failure of the limestone platform itself. University of Miami researchers run cascading collapse scenarios showing worst-case magnitude 5.0 earthquakes possible if multiple cave systems fail simultaneously. Emergency planning evolves in real time. Earthquake preparedness campaigns launch across Florida, unprecedented for a state never considered seismically active. Building codes face emergency review for structural integrity on unstable ground. Mandatory inspections are required for all buildings within 2 miles of the coastline. The insurance industry faces an existential crisis as policies never included earthquake coverage for Florida properties. FEMA expands its mission scope to include geological collapse events, creating entirely new disaster response protocols for threats that were theoretical until now. Limestone formations do not respect state boundaries. The same geological platform supporting Florida extends through the entire southeast coastal region. Georgia sits on identical porous limestone. South Carolina contains karst topography riddled with underground voids. North Carolina's Outer Banks show early warning signs that scientists previously dismissed as normal erosion. The Atlantic coastal plain stretches 1,200 miles from Florida to New Jersey, all potentially vulnerable to catastrophic collapse. Early detection systems activate along the coast as the threat expands. The Georgia Department of Natural Resources deploys emergency survey teams to barrier islands within 72 hours of Florida's first collapse. Jekyll Island reports minor subsidence detected in 3 separate locations. Tybee Island experiences unexplained beach erosion, accelerating beyond historical rates. South Carolina's governor requests immediate federal geological assessment. The USGS expands seismic and ground monitoring networks to 6 states. Dr. Michael Torres at Duke University proposes the domino effect theory with supporting data that alarms coastal researchers. Florida's collapse is creating regional destabilization through interconnected geological systems. Pressure changes in the massive Floridan aquifer affect connected regions across state lines. Groundwater flow patterns shift dramatically, altering subsurface conditions hundreds of miles from the original collapse zone. The aquifer system extends from southern Alabama to South Carolina, creating potential for cascading failures across the entire southeast. Economic implications explode beyond initial Florida projections. Atlantic coast tourism generates $186 billion annually across affected states. Real estate values in 15 coastal counties total $2.4 trillion in assessed property. Federal Reserve economists analyze scenarios where a spreading collapse could trigger an economic catastrophe, dwarfing the 2008 housing crisis. The insurance industry convenes emergency summits in New York and London. Lloyd's of London reclassifies the entire Atlantic limestone coast as extreme risk, essentially uninsurable under traditional coverage models. International attention focuses on Florida as a global warning. The Bahamas sits on identical limestone formations. Caribbean islands face similar geological vulnerabilities. Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula contains the world's largest underwater cave systems carved through limestone. Mediterranean coastlines with karst geology monitor developments closely. An international geological conference convenes on an emergency basis. The UN Environment Program issues requests for global coastal stability assessments. Infrastructure risk assessment reveals catastrophic exposure beyond Florida. The Port of Savannah is America's third busiest container port, and its facilities are built on limestone. Charleston's naval installations support Atlantic Fleet operations. Dozens of military bases across the Southeast sit on potentially unstable foundations. 3 nuclear power plants operate within zones geologists now classify as vulnerable. Interstate highway systems cross regions where subsurface collapse could sever critical transportation corridors. December 19th, Governor Ron DeSantis declares a statewide emergency from the Capitol steps in Tallahassee. The formal request, submitted to the White House, demands $12 billion in federal disaster relief, the largest single-state request in FEMA history outside hurricane season. The Florida National Guard receives mobilization orders for 4,200 personnel, the largest domestic deployment the state has ever authorized. Troops establish checkpoints, coordinate evacuations, and patrol closed beaches to prevent unauthorized access to collapse zones. A congressional battle erupts within hours of the federal funding request. House Republicans question the allocation during emergency appropriations hearings. Why should taxpayers across America bail out Florida's coastal development decisions? Senate Democrats push for immediate approval without conditions, arguing that American citizens are suffering now. The debate over climate change's role in the crisis paralyzes legislative action. Senator Marco Rubio faces cameras with visible frustration. People are losing their homes while Washington plays politics. The emergency funding bill stalls in committee as both parties calculate electoral advantages. FEMA faces resource exhaustion across multiple simultaneous disasters. The agency deployed thousands of personnel to California's catastrophic floods just weeks earlier. Administrator Deanne Criswell warns Congress during testimony that FEMA cannot maintain the current operational pace without additional funding and personnel. Emergency reserves deplete at unsustainable rates. Congress debates FEMA budget increases while disaster costs compound daily. The insurance industry approaches systemic collapse. Citizens. Property insurance, Florida's state-backed insurer of last resort, faces insolvency as claims exceed $18 billion in the first week alone. Private insurance carriers cancel 340,000 policies across coastal counties, citing ground collapse exclusions buried in policy fine print. Homeowners discover their coverage excludes the exact disaster destroying their properties. Class action lawsuits are filed against 12 major insurance carriers in federal court. The Florida legislature convenes emergency sessions to address the crisis threatening the entire state insurance market. Property markets freeze completely across affected regions. Coastal property sales drop 91% as buyers vanish and sellers panic. Mortgage lenders refuse new loans for any property within 10 miles of documented sinkholes. Property values evaporate, $67 billion in assessed value disappearing from tax rolls within 2 weeks. Banks declare mortgages in default due to properties becoming uninhabitable, triggering foreclosure waves predicted to crest in 2025. Tourism devastation spreads beyond beach closures. Spring break season projections collapse as universities cancel planned trips. Cruise ship companies evaluate relocating ports of call away from unstable infrastructure. Disney World revises attendance projections downward by 22%, citing regional instability concerns. Miami Beach hotels report 83% cancellation rates extending through summer 2025. Annual tourism losses are estimated at $43 billion, threatening 340,000 jobs across Florida's service economy. Florida's limestone foundation crumbles beneath 47 miles of coastline. 23 sinkholes, $25 billion in damage. Seismic tremors are spreading north. Can paradise be saved, or will it collapse into the sea?